I needed help here and here. And so I reached out to a counselor because I was tired of living my life like that. I felt like a mouse that had fallen into this hole, and I was just trying so hard to dig myself out, and I couldn't get myself out. This podcast was born out of a need to create space where we can be real, raw, and honest about the healing journey. It happens when we give ourselves permission to feel, to speak, and to heal, heard, and be seen. For a long time, I carried a lot emotionally, spiritually, and even in my work. As a realtor, a mother, a woman of faith, I have worn many hats. But behind the success, the smiles, and the story, I know I'm not the only one. So today I was going to come in and talk about the glass ceiling, because I think that so many of us, especially me growing up, I attended a bunch of different schools because we moved a lot, and I was always the new kid. And so I never just fit in. I was always the oddball. And growing up, I always had that glass ceiling. You can only do this. You're only qualified to do that. You can't sit in that room because obviously you look different, you act different, things like that. And then this morning, I had a conversation with a friend. She sent me a TikTok. And man, that really just resonated with me, because growing up, so in the TikTok, the video was about this person. She said, as a mom, why can't I just have one glass of wine? Why am I wired differently? Why is it that if I open a bottle of wine, I can't just have one glass of wine? Why do I drink the whole bottle? What's wrong with me? Am I an alcoholic? What is it? And as you go through the video, it talks more about, it's not that you're wired differently. This alcohol, and I've seen it in my life, not just my life, but in relatives' lives, whether it's alcohol or it's a drug, at some point in your life, it took whatever pain you were harboring, whatever trauma was in your life, it took that away. And so I think so many people, and I see it all over the place, so many people have a bad relationship with a substance, an alcohol or a drug. And it's not because we have a problem. It's because we never went back and dialed into our mind, our body, our soul, what was it that caused us to go after it the first time, because we were running from something that we didn't want to deal with. And so we got to talking, and it made me go back and think about 15-year-old me, 16-year-old me, when you get introduced to these things and you go to parties. And back in my day, it was a little bit different. You went to a party, you paid $3 to go into somebody's backyard, and they had kegs, they had music, and everybody was dancing. And I would say that when I was 15, 16, that's probably when I realized everything that I'm holding on the inside, the trauma that I have, this drink just fixed it, because it took me someplace else. It reduced your nervous system. And a lot of people joke around about your it's another person, your other personality that comes out when you've been drinking. If you're shy and you take a drink, oh my gosh, you're on the dance floor all night long. You see that so often. But in all reality, I was running. And I see it so often where we're running away because we don't know how to fix what we're feeling on the inside, because we don't know how we were taught not to talk about things. We were taught not to repeat things. That's just not something that we talk about. And so for years, I did that. As a teenager, that was my entire life. I had a DUI by the time I was 19. And that was the only DUI, by the way, that I've ever had. I was 19 years old, and I will never forget, I was twice over the limit. I probably weighed like 98 pounds, maybe 102 pounds, and I was twice over the limit. I had a cup of alcohol on my legs, and I'm driving. And I just flew through a red light on 67th Avenue and Thomas, I think, or McDowell. And I had 3 people in the back, 1 person in the front. And I stop and I think about these things, and I'm like, all I was doing was running from traumas in my past, from things that I had no control over. But we didn't talk about these things. And I had a lot of shame. And so I didn't discuss these things, but that created something else. Because when you're just nonstop depending on it, and I see it, sometimes I have a hard week, because real estate's not easy, by the way. I might have a hard week, and then come Friday, I'm like, I want a drink. But sometimes 1 drink turns into 2, and then 2 turns into 3. And then it's like, why did I do that? You know, I knew at some point in my life that I had a bad relationship with alcohol. And so I knew that I had to quit drinking, which I did. And it was probably a year and a half, somewhere around there, that I had quit drinking. And I had to redevelop like everything around that, because drinking and like taking your mind away where you have no control over the things that you do, those don't help you. That doesn't help you. Digging into what brought you here, what are you running from? That is the only thing that is going to help you, is what are you running from? I remember having a conversation with my oldest brother. And from the time that I was 5 years old, I remember watching him, and there's a big age difference between us. And my first memory of him was I was 5. And I think about his life and the life that he's lived. Most of my life, he's been in prison. He's been in prison. He's been on drugs. And my mom continued to enable him. And now he's living on the street because we had to have him removed from the home. And I remember telling him in 2020, 2021, he had COVID really, really bad. And he was in the hospital for 2 months. And when he left the hospital, because he wasn't released, but when he left the hospital, I remember telling him, there's a purpose for you. God has something in store for you. That is why every time you have OD'd, you didn't die. And there is a purpose for you. God keeps you around for a reason. Like with all the drugs that you do, all the times, I remember asking him one time, and I said, how many times have you OD'd? And he said 20, 30 times. And every single time they brought him back to life. And today, like all of that just came down like a weight on me. And I thought, just imagine if I would have continued that life, I could be him. And there are so many people that are on that trajectory right now. Like alcohol and drugs are not going to save your life. They're going to lead you into different avenues, because at some point it's not going to work anymore. And like for me, I remember I was 20, no. I was 37, maybe 30. No. I take it back. I must have been like 33, 35. And I needed help. It wasn't just that I needed help with alcohol. I needed help here and here. And so I reached out to a counselor and I started seeing her. I was going to therapy. I think I was starting to go through the divorce. And it just so happened to be, I had no idea, but she was religion based. And I needed help because I was trying to drown myself in, forget about everything that was going on. I was dealing with an eating disorder that I'd been dealing with since I was like 12. I had hate, anger, like you name it. But I made the first step. And I started seeking help because I was tired of living my life like that. I felt like a mouse that had fallen into this hole, and I was just trying so hard to dig myself out, and I couldn't get myself out. But with her help and the help of others that I've seeked, and they helped me. So going back to the video today that my friend sent me, I remember responding to her and I said, but the difference is now that we're aware. We are aware and we can stop it before it even happens. It's not a problem. It's just that, yes, when you have a couple of drinks, when you have a few drinks, that awareness kind of goes away. And so but we know it's happening now. And we try to stop it in its tracks. So if you're going through something, seek help. Alcohol is not going to help you. You're going to feel like shit in the morning. The problem is still going to be there and you need help. Like there's nothing wrong with talking about the things that are breaking you on the inside. What's wrong is when you don't talk about them and they end up killing you on the inside. And so, I mean, my advice is I know what's helped me. And I enjoy having a good time. Don't get me wrong. I do, but I don't enjoy having the good time that I had when I was 38, 35, 21, 15, 16. I don't want to have those good times anymore. I'm too old for that. So I just go back to, you're not alone. There are so many people in this world that walk around with a smile on their face, but inside they're carrying shame that they don't even know how to handle. And so they seek bad things. They seek things that they think they don't feel worthy. I know for a long time I didn't feel worthy. I know for a long time, even now, sometimes I'll walk into a room and I'm like, I do not belong in this room. But I'm there because I do belong in the room. We have to get out of our minds, and we can't fix ourselves. We need to have that. I'm able to call my friend, and if I'm feeling a certain way, I'm able to call her and talk to her, and she reminds me who I am. I remind her who she is. Have that circle. You need a circle of people that are healthy for you. You need a circle of people that aren't going to drag you down. Like, look around your circle. Who are they? Are they, if they're up to no good, find a new circle. In our family now, I mean, growing up, my kids' first birthday party. We had food, we had all the alcohol you could possibly have. We had a bunch of kids running around, and alcohol was the priority at a first birthday party. at a second birthday party. Like that's been our lives for so long. And now I was just telling my daughter this. Now when we come together, alcohol is no longer the focus. But I raised my kids that way. I raised my kids where that was the primary focus. You made sure that you catered to the adults, you catered to the kids, but at the end of the night, you just ended up with a bunch of drunk Mexicans. Sorry. That's like you just ended up with a bunch of drunk adults who were going to have to drive their kids home. And that's not how we do things anymore. I mean, yes, we do. We have a good time still, but the primary focus is the kids. What games are they going to play? Let's make sure that we're singing happy birthday. Let's make sure that they're opening their presents. The focus is the kids now. The focus is the family. The focus is no longer, do we have enough beer? Do we have enough? Let's make sure that we're all taking shots before we sing happy birthday to the baby. So now everything has switched. Like what we do is different. We can get together and nobody is, oh, we don't have any beer, because it doesn't matter. Somebody might bring a little bit, but it's not like, that's not the priority anymore. And so myself coming from that as a little girl, I ran into a picture and I was like, dang, my mom's holding me on her lap. She's smoking a cigarette, drinking a Coors Light. Everyone at the table is doing the same. But that's the life that we grew up in. That's the life that she grew up in. Nobody knew any different. And so now to see how our trajectory is changing in the family, like, I love that. And I think for my business, I don't wake up like a saladito anymore, because when you live to party, you can't run a business. You don't feel good. You don't want to work. You don't want to talk to people. And that's not my focus. I have to be able to, in order for me to run my business, I have to be 110%. I have to be ready to go. If I can show up, because sometimes your client might need to see a house at 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, staying up until 4 o'clock in the morning just isn't the business. They will see a difference in you. And they'll probably smell a difference in you too, because you're going to smell like a bar. Not focusing on the drinking, the partying, the, releasing all your endorphins, like trying to run away from something. I'm more aware of the things that are going on. I'm able to run my business at a different level, at a higher level, because I don't live to party. I don't live to drink. I do enjoy it, but that's not my everyday thing. That's not my every weekend thing. I'm more focused on serving my clients, working, than I am, where are we going Saturday night? Oh, what bar? Are we going to go to happy hour? You will very rarely see me, because my focus is my family, my business, and just trying to be a better person, make it to church, trying to live a better life. And I mean, every day when I pray, that's the one thing I always ask for, is to allow me to love others the way that I'm loved by God. And I can't do that if I'm drunk. I mean, that's just, but I think the most important piece is just being aware of what you're doing to yourself, because when we don't feel worthy, we treat ourselves really bad. When we don't feel worthy, we allow people to treat us bad. When we don't feel worthy, we find ourselves in bad relationships. Because if nobody else cares about me, why should I care about myself? And, this is just the type of person that I'm involved in. He loves me, she loves me, but it's because you don't feel worthy. Heal yourself from the inside out and realize that you don't need to be treated like shit. You are worthy, but you have to treat yourself better before anybody else is even going to see, because the way you carry yourself, the way you treat yourself is what people see, even though you don't think that that's true. If I love myself and I care about myself, then the people around me are going to see that. But if I don't respect who I am, I allow people to walk all over me, and I'm just out there for a good time, I'm going to attract those people that are just out there for a good time. And I want them to love me, but they're not going to love me because I don't even love myself. If this resonated with you, reach out to me, send me a DM. All of my social media platforms are below, and you're not alone. You need anything, here I am. Reach out to me. We'll talk to you later.